I'm Diane Barrett with the BE Collection. I'm the B of the collection. Micheline Bradley is here with us today. Micheline is being interviewed for the collection. It is February 7th, 2022. So welcome. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So my first question is, where were you born?
I was born in Montreal,
Mm-hmm.
in Quebec, Canada, and I was born French. And as a gal, we had to belong to a Catholic church, and we had to go to school with only girls' school, and very interesting.
How many brothers and sisters did you have, or do you have?
I have a sister she lives in a rural area of Montreal called Saint-Geneviève. My brother unfortunately had a heart transplant at a very young age and died a few years later from the effect of the medicine, entire rejection. So his kidney was involved, and yeah.
So at that time, were you still living in Canada, or were you in the United States?
I was in Canada, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Were you a nurse?
Yes. Yes. Went to the same group of nuns that were teaching. Different congregations have different roles. Some were for health, and the other were for education. Yes.
What made you decide to become a nurse?
Okay. I mentioned before that I was French. I was a girl.
Mm-hmm.
So I had four choices: a teacher, secretary, nurse. I guess it was only three. And
Wife.
I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to become a mathematician, a science, and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But that was no. My brother got this offer. He could have become a doctor. So in those days, that was it: nurse, teacher, secretary, and I had a few aunts that were nurses. I slip in that one.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed I slip a few French words here.
Then when you came to the United States, did you come to California immediately, or did you go someplace else?
No, actually, I came and I flew on to Santa Barbara. Quite an experience. To Santa Barbara, and then the friend that met me there brought me to where him and his wife live up, I believe it's Lake Casitas, up Santa Barbara on the way to Solvay. So anyhow, that's where they live. And the reason for my going there was just that he was going to go to Europe to do further his knowledge with GYN and so forth. But unfortunately, he was in an accident when they were doing the freeway and died immediately.
Oh.
Very, very talented man. And so Eva stayed by herself, and she had friends because she was going to Santa Barbara, work at the Santa Barbara hospital.
Was she a nurse? Was she a nurse like you were?
Yes, yes. Actually, that's how I met them. Eva was her name. We were both nurses, and she said, "Would you mind coming with me while her name, I don't know, is going to Germany to do his fellowship?" And I said, "Oh, okay." But I was very hesitant because I tried it before. When you graduate from nursing training, you have many friends, and we have many trips. And then suddenly that one gets engaged. So that was it. But with them, I did go because they were friends, and well, okay, I'm coming. But then when this occurred to the husband, that he could not leave right away because he didn't get the job that would give him enough money to go to Germany right away.
What point did you think that, oh, I'm a lesbian or bisexual?
Oh, that's
different.
Well, that's coming up because I found more position for nurses in Los Angeles.
Right.
And it was either Santa Monica or Los Angeles per se.
What year was that? What year was that?
I don't remember. It had to be
approximately
70, early 70s, late 60s. So anyhow, what was really fascinating, I found, is that I took a taxi. I had the address for Santa Monica, but I took a taxi and I asked the gentleman to bring me where I was, which was Kaiser Hospital. And so
you took a taxi
I have an address here that said, hold on a second, let me bring you to Kaiser, and then all you have to do is walk up and down the street. You see many ads for rooms for rent. And he said, I can bring you to the other place, but I don't think it's the place for you. So he was very, very gentle. Yeah.
Were you speaking English then? How were you learning English?
I'd learned English only as a secondary language. In Canada, actually, a third language. We had to learn Latin. And English was, a little bit here and there. So when I came here, I really had difficulty for people to understand. And so I learned to spell faster than I could speak.
I've heard people say that about language. Yes.
Is it?
Yeah.
Because of the accent, people can't understand, although you have the right words, but anyhow, yeah.
So then you started working at Kaiser in Los Angeles?
I started working at Kaiser and met nurses from all over the world, it seems. Really, in those days, before the influence of Filipino nurses replaced, there was nurse from Canada, from Germany, from Denmark. Anyhow, it was very, very interesting.
You were living alone then? Were you living by yourself?
Yes, I found a little room by myself, and it was just like 10 minutes away from Kaiser, just walking down the street. And very, very, very interesting. It was on Franklin and Berendo, and the temple that now I belong to as a nun is at Franklin at Kenmore, two streets away from where I first came to LA.
He's calling you back. So at what point in your life did you embrace Buddhism?
I did. There's a lot of teaching that I felt helped me, give me something to think about that was of a different religion. And I enjoy going to the teaching enormously.
Did you continue into Catholicism before you?
No, I had given that up, it was not necessarily what was popular there. Neither here, it just happened. Oh yeah, I was coming from a doctor's office, and those papers that they had in those racks, and then you just throw them in, just pick them up and read. Mm-hmm. And so I remember I was going to have coffee at Starbucks, and suddenly a piece of publicity fell from the paper, and I looked and I said, "Oh my God, that looks so interesting. And it's right next where I live." They used to call that place Frog Town.
Oh, right. I've heard that expression, right?
Yes. So yeah, I went there for the first time, and you could buy a bundle. And I wanted by the time I heard the teacher. And so anyhow, when I left, you see, don't worry, you can pay next time and we'll reimburse you. But yeah, I've been doing this.
When you began to embrace Buddhism for yourself, had you already been in a lesbian relationship?
Yes, indeed. That started when I first came, first job at Kaiser. I knew nothing about homosexuality. That I had never heard. And so with working with different gals, and of which two were, I eventually found out, were lesbian. My supervisor and this other person that I spoke, and that little gal said to the supervisor, "Well, just ask her out." And well, from then on, it was a long trip, but it all happened.
Still happening. So I don't know the philosophy of Buddhism in relationship to homosexuality. What's their thinking on it?
I really don't know at all. I've never heard, any negative or positive, because there's quite a few members, men and women, that are. Uh-huh. So we don't go there for, that type of love, you might say. It's a little bit more elevated, like Buddha and so forth. But there are people who have had a relationship who are married, gay women. So
are they married within the Buddhist temple, or do they have to?
No, they just marry a civil type of marriage, and they're still coming to the temple.
Nobody's saying you can't be here if you're a lesbian.
Oh,
that's good. I don't know. I'm coming from a point of no knowledge. Very low.
Yeah, no, they're more interested, like, in religion and how they can help you have a more calmer, peaceful mind. And yet, the one thing that I've always been so impressed by is that our leader, the first person in charge, has said, if someone speaks to you and they belong to another religion, never put them down. If that works for them at that time, that's what it is. Right. And I adore that.
Yeah, it's good.
Because it was was not like Catholic. It's my way or the highway or hell, you know. So yes, and I did some teaching for a while until I stopped losing, you know, I felt my memory was slipping away and I was mostly reading. And I said, well, they can do that because that's not what Buddhism is about. Buddhism, you read, but you absorb, and then when you teach, it's not word for word, it's what you take out of it.
What you read and how you absorb it, then you teach your interpretation of that.
Yes, yes. And I will say something that's fairly close together is that sometimes I feel they repeat the same subject matter. If you go to beginner's class or, you know, special program that they have once a year. And I remember that one year, great teacher, Genla Jampa, came to teach, but the subject matters. I said, I've known that, but what was interesting is that I tried to keep an open mind, and it went deeper. You know, you don't get a grade, 2, 3, 4, but you can see that the religion, the Buddhism, the whatever gets lower in inner space.
So I know that you have some pets that are very important to you. What are the names of your dogs?
That you can forget that.
Right. We have pictures of
very bright Charlie, which is a little white poodle, very, very smart. And the other one that's more bouncy and wants his way is Piero. And Piero is actually the name of my brother. His name was Pierre when you grew up, but as a child, we called him Piero.
So as a nurse, I know that you did a lot of diabetic teaching. You worked for the VA.
Yes, yes. It was the specialties eventually become diabetes educator, and then suddenly, like industry, people had different jobs. So I was given the infection disease clinic as well as the diabetic, and that was in the beginning of HIV. So it was a very, very enlightening. And I was so fortunate, and my neighbor was so fortunate, I would say, in this name, that I would mention to the doctor in charge of the HIV clinic that, you know, my friend across the street, I said, he's starting to feel funny, and it's hard to describe. And that was one. The following, I said, he's getting worse. His eyes, and as soon as you get home, you bring him to the hospital. And I did that. I brought him to Mount Sinai, and they admitted him immediately and started giving him plaster, the whole thing, and he got out of it. But, you know, I was very, very fortunate with it. Another gay guy, I owned a duplex once upon a time, and he lived at the bottom. And Steve got a call from her doctor. You've got to get to the hospital right away because something in his lab was very, very bad. And so I offered to bring him, and he was at the county hospital.
Huh.
And you know in what area the county hospital was downtown LA.
Why
And
not?
so I brought him there, and then I found out there was no parking space by the emergency room.
There
So
isn't. I work there. I know that's true.
I said,
I
Steve,
know where people
I'm sorry, I have to leave you here because I don't know where I'm going to park.
Mhm.
And so he went by himself, and let me tell you, I didn't stop. I just went home.
Uh-huh.
I knew that he was sick enough that they were going to keep him. And in a way, I felt honored to help those people in that way.
Right. I
Just,
understand. That's your nurse part.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Probably your Buddhist part too. So now you're in retirement, and do you have a goal in your life to things you want to accomplish?
Well, the first time I was told, prepare for your retirement. Prepare. I've gone through the VA preparation money-wise, and that's where I found out I wouldn't have much any money from the. I had bought books, CDs, own projects because you know I owned a home at the time. I did most of the repair, and it just didn't quite do it. I felt very down and depressed. Then came the famous Iraq War with the object of mass destruction. So I noticed that there was different organizations, and I volunteered. And so that gave me a feeling of doing something. I didn't realize the people you work with are really important in our life. We don't necessarily, I didn't necessarily feel at that time. But then it was not just that, it was mostly a matter of having a goal that was of value.
Mhm.
And when I went to join the group to try to eliminate the war, which you know the two Mr. B's decide we're going, that did it. And then that's when I found Buddhism. So that was my salvation.
That was a good transfer, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you knew your life was going to be ending, what would you like to be remembered for?
It's hard to say. I think people like me,
Mhm.
and I share with nursing attendants the same way that I did with upgrade doctors. There was no difference in my mind. They were people, and I had something to share with them. And I feel maybe that's my heart, you know, not the physical one, but the spiritual one. Yeah, I felt a value.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Do you have questions you'd like to ask me about this, what we're doing here?
Yes,
Very well.
yes, indeed. So why did you think start with about this program? And it must be fulfilling some of your ideas because you've been doing it for a few years now, isn't it?
No, 1 year. This
Oh,
month.
really? Really? Oh my God, you've been working a lot for 1 year.
It's our anniversary. Mhm.
Oh my God, yeah.
I thought that our age group ought to be represented in a
I
way.
see.
Our stories are coming out, our difficulties, our good times, and it's a historical time. I did an interview Well, I think last week. Anyway, so I wore my mask. And as people look back on that, they're going to know that we were doing this during COVID. By the time they start researching it, hopefully COVID will be gone. But the fact that I wore a mask for the interview demonstrated that it was active when I was interviewing. I didn't have it. The other person didn't either, but it was still around us. I think it's a legacy project. I think that it's inspiring. It can inspire someone. I've always been inspired by things that I've read, if they aren't too long.
The one thing that I remember, and that's absolutely opposite of what you're just mentioning, and that's why more than likely the group and someone like you came along, because I remember when I heard the word homosexual, I quickly looked it up in a medical dictionary, and it meant you were mentally deranged.
Right.
And it was just so frightening in a way. And then I said, no, I am not.
Right.
No. But eventually they did change that.
But if you think of all the laws that happened, that changed, and we're still in transition. People still are not comfortable with us as who we are as homosexuals, lesbians. And now they're expanding new terminology. I couldn't even remember the first time I heard the word lesbian. And I know it was difficult for me to say it in reference to myself. I don't have a problem now, but there was a time when I did. So I appreciate it. I appreciate Cynthia helping us and helping you.
Oh my, yes. I mean, I couldn't do without her at all. And she loves those dogs. She sings to them at night when she holds them. And I know she wasn't singing for me.
You never know, she might be. I sing for all of you.
It's very, very soft and very beautiful. Yes, and needless to, she works a lot. It helped me.
So thank you.
Okay, I really appreciate your invitation. Really, really. A big hug, virtually, in person when we can. Yeah, we miss you. We miss your presence, definitely.
Thank you. Thank you.